Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our lectures on human rights and media tracking. So let's pursue our lectures. So today or this afternoon's lecture is entitled Introduction to Media Tracking and Human Rights. We're going to see, indeed, we have been talking a lot about international treaties and institutional frameworks, bodies, regional, non-regional, local organizations, associations that advocate, of course, for human rights, that monitor human rights. But today we're going to see some tools that help advocating, monitoring, and tracking human rights processes. And one of those tools is media. We're going to see how the media plays a pivotal role either in tracking human rights abuses and transgressions or tracking human rights development and refinement. So these are the things that we are going to cover. And at the same time, we are going to assess and evaluate the role of media to see to what extent, for example, we can rely on media, especially these days with this technological era where we have sometimes when we face fake news, okay? At the same time, we are going to see to what extent sometimes we just face stereotypical sort or kind of media, okay? So we are going to cover all these things. So therefore, the objectives of this lecture are the following. Number one, to understand how media influences human rights perceptions and actions, to explore methods for tracking human rights issues in the media, to identify challenges in accurate and ethical human rights reporting. So these are the objectives of the lectures of this lecture that we are going to cover. So of course, as I might say today, this topic is very debatable and is very controversial, especially when we talk about the role of media in especially in human rights tracking. This is a very sensitive topic. Why? Because we face that media plays very sometimes different rules. Sometimes it is filled with stereotypical images, misrepresentations of the fact. Sometimes it is really a very reliable means on which we can rely. Why? Because it can, for example, enhance human rights. It can monitor human rights. It can protect human rights. And at the same time, we can rely on media sometimes because it's like a means that we can rely upon it to track human rights abuses and violations. Well, so according to Walter Cronkite, so he is a very famous American broadcast journalist, and he devoted himself to human rights tracking. So according to him, freedom of the press is not just important to democracy, but it is democracy. So we have been talking a lot about the right to freedom, freedom of the press, and I told you this morning to underline freedom to expression, freedom to the right to freedom of expression, and the right to liberty, the right to express your opinions freely in a very healthy atmosphere. And this is the thing that even Walter Cronkite, as a very reliable American broadcast journalist, asserts here, is that if we don't have freedom of the press in our country, so we cannot talk about democracy at all. So this is the first thing. If we would like to really talk about the role of mass media, we should first of all have a democratic or live in a democratic state in order to talk about because if we don't give the press freedom, if the press doesn't enjoy, for example, this right to freedom of expression, so journalists cannot perform their job well, and they cannot track human rights abuses and violations. According to Mary Robinson, and Mary Robinson was a former United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. So Mary says that media coverage can play a significant role in shaping the perception of human rights issues and in influencing the actions of governments and international bodies. So Mary here summarizes, grosso modo, the role of media. So media coverage can play a significant role in shaping the perception of human rights. So of course this is a very it says what this quote, for example, says here is that media plays a very awesome, very seminal role in shaping the perception of human rights, in sensitizing people about their rights, in raising awareness, raising human beings' consciousness about their rights. And this is something thanks to mass media. But at the same time, we talk about the advantages of mass media, but sometimes we can even talk about the disadvantages and how we can evaluate, how can we rely on media sometimes, and how can we filter even the information that we seek from the mass media. So we should filter. We shouldn't consume everything, for example, that even we read in newspapers or that we watch on television or we listen on the radio, but we should filter all the information that we get in order to seek the truth. So the first question that we are going, of course, to answer, what is media tracking? What do you mean by media tracking? And this is something related to human rights in our context, since we are dealing with human rights and media tracking. At the same time, we will ask this question: why does media tracking matter? Why does it matter? Why is it very important when we talk about human rights, we talk about media? Sometimes we feel that those media tracking and human rights, they are intertwined, they are amalgamated. We cannot separate them. Why? Because one serves the other. How? Human rights, of course, in the declaration we have seen that declaration, of course, gives rights to journalists, to people, and they give them the right to expression, the freedom of expression. This is something very important. At the same time, because we have that right to expression, we should express the truth. And we should seek the truth, not seeking fake news, okay? And we should be reliable sources. I'm talking about journalists. If you are a journalist, so please, you should seek the truth and only the truth in order to broadcast to people very true information. Of course, media has many rules, and this is the thing that we are going to see. So sometimes it is about monitoring, refers to tracking, analyzing, and measuring various media channels. And these channels can include like traditional media, like newspapers, sometimes like magazines, radio, television, digital media, even web-based application, which is where most of us spend our time. Okay, so this is it. This is what we have today: digital media. Analyzing data, so this is monitoring. Also, there is analyzing data. We mean by the analyzing data from these sources, it enables us, or it enables you to understand everything from public perception to the growing trends in your industry. At the same time, there is measuring. So you measure, and this is something very important. You balance. You should measure. You should filter all the information, all pieces of information that come from mass media. So this is the thing that we should pay attention to, is that we should analyze, monitor, and measure. The role of media in human rights, and this is something very important. Media outlets, of course, help raise public awareness. So this is something very important. So awareness and consciousness. So this is the first rule that we can speak about when it concerns the role of media in human rights. So media outlets help raise public awareness about human rights abuses, for example, highlighting issues like discrimination, like violence, poverty, and environmental degradation that impacts people's rights. So this is what we mean by awareness and consciousness. At the same time, for example, news coverage of global movements, such as Me Too movement has amplified discussions on gender-based violence and harassment, encouraging many countries, for example, to reconsider policies and protective laws. So these are some movements, for example, or that sensitize people about women's rights. Also, when we talk about media, we talk about advancing information and accountability. So accountability, this is something very important. Through investigative reporting, journalists often they reveal corruption, torture, illegal detention, illegal immigration, and other human rights violations, prompting accountability measures and legal actions. And this is something also that we can speak about when we deal with the role of media in human rights. Also, there is another role of human rights, and this is the thing that may be very relevant to us. We were talking about how we can implement human rights, how we can render them into action, and how we can seek them in reality, how they can be real, not just words on paper, not just ink on paper. So media can help us, of course, take action, and can help us sensitize, can help people be aware of their rights, and at the same time can help mobilization and advocacy for rights. And so the media gives voice to vulnerable people, marginalized people, be they women, be they children, be they people with disabilities. Why? How media, for example, reaches to those people by sharing their stories, bringing their struggles to light, but by making them visible. And this is something very important. Sometimes we can trace human rights abuses, transgressions in many parts in the world, but those human rights violations, they are invisible, and we cannot even know them. We cannot know that in that very particular place, for example, so people are suffering from starvation or from slavery, for example. But thanks to media, for example, thanks to mass media in general, so we can know about those people, and media can play that role of making those people who suffer, it can make them visible to the public. Okay. So this is the role of mass media of media in general. So it's awareness and consciousness, information and accountability, advocacy and mobilization. This is something very, very important that we can, for example, trace while dealing with the issue of media. Well, types of media, of course, today we can talk about a lot of types. Social media, digital media, like virtual media, also mass media, print media. So we have a lot, but I have summarized the types of media in three major elements: digital social media, traditional print media, and alternative media. So digital media is very accessible to us, of course, via the internet, and via artificial intelligence also. It allows us for interactivity with people all over the world, which is very distinct from traditional media forms. It has an expansive global reach and provides real-time updates. This type of media also enables us and enables content to be highly shareable, like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Okay, so this is a very digital social media, but it's very fast in disseminating information, in disseminating news, in sharing stories. It's the most rapid, sort of media. Social media also, like what I have said, Twitter or Facebook, for example. So they allow users to create, share, discuss many contents, and create even blogs, websites. So all these things. So they are very specialized in disseminating information on various topics and in diverse contexts. Alternative media refers to media that exists outside the mainstream, and typically it offers perspectives, it offers voices, and it allows information that is not widely covered by normal people or by large people like corporate media entities. So these platforms in general often focus on marginalized viewpoints like grassroots movements, critical perspectives, dominant social and political issues. So for example, you have many independent news websites and blogs like Counterpunch, like Independent Journalist blog. So these are all sorts of alternative media. So this is very important indeed to know the types of the media, because while analyzing, monitoring and measuring media, so you should know what type of media are you concerned with. Okay, so to know how to analyze, how to measure, and how to monitor. So these types of media, so they are very visible in democratic, of course, societies, and they have the role of advancing the democracy or the spectrum of democracy all over the world. And at the same time, they advance, of course, human rights. Now, let's see what are the techniques and the methods that this media, for example, uses in order to track human rights. So media tracking techniques and methods. So sometimes the media uses keyword monitoring, which means it involves setting up alerts for specific human rights related keywords, such as human rights, such as freedom of speech, police brutality, torture, slavery. So these are some keywords. They sparkle these are the techniques, sometimes even at the hidden of any newspaper like journal. So you see human rights in big for example font, and you see, for example, slavery, so to attract the attention, to hook the attention of the people. So these are techniques. So sometimes keyword monitoring, so this is one of the techniques that media is using in order to sensitize people and to hook the attention of people. There is also the geolocation tracking. This is also another rule or another method, another technique that the media is using in order to track human rights abuses. So monitoring, geolocation tracking focuses on monitoring media reports from specific regions, particular areas with a high likelihood of human rights abuses, such as conflict zones. So some students have already spoken about community abuses and community, for example, zones. Then you have conflict zones or regions with political instability. You have already spoken about this issue when you were reacting to the lecture this morning. So some students have already spoken about how they, in some communities, so there is such an abuse. So this is the geolocation. It means they locate human rights abuses and human rights transgressions. So sometimes you have different sort of human rights violation. It's not when you track, for example, human rights in India, it will not be the same as in Indonesia or Malaysia or any other country all over the world. So this is another technique that media tracking is using in order to trace and to see, okay, to what extent human rights are transgressed. There is something which is very important, and I'm going to show you concrete examples to understand it later on, is the sentimentalist, the sentiment analysis. And this is a technique that is used by media tracking. This is something very important, and sometimes it even sensitizes people to take action and to mobilize. Sentiment analysis can gauge public support or opposition on issues like gender equality, for example, refugee rights. We are going to see, for example, refugee rights and how the sentiment analysis plays a very pivotal role We are going to see an example later on. Freedom of expression, also fact-checking and verification are also essential. And this is another technique. It's fact-checking and verification. This is another technique that is used by media tracking, and it's very important also. It's you verify. This is verification. It's very essential for accurate reporting on human rights issues. And this is something which is very important, and therefore I'm going to explain to you later on how we should filter the information, how we shouldn't consume and imbibe everything, for example, that we see on media, everything that we read on newspapers, but we should have this fact checking. And even within media tracking techniques, so there is this fact checking and verification, and there are many organizations that are very specialized in fact checking and verification, because you see with this global technological era, sometimes we are fraught with information, fraught with news, so we should know what is good to take and what is bad to refute. And this fact checking and verification, they help people, they help it helps population, of course, to filter the information and to seek authenticity reports. Why? Because authenticity is something very, very important before sharing or before even acting on them. Because sometimes you may face like fake news that in that area, for example, there is human rights abuses, but it's not true at all. So you should use fact checking and verification to seek authenticity and to seek the truth. This is something also very, very, very crucial to cross-reference, of course, sources. Well, so media and critical thinking, this is also something which is very important, I do believe. So you see, mass media breeds mass deception sometimes, and you see how media breeds people. So sometimes you should have that critical thinking to just filter the information and to know what is relevant and what is irrelevant, what is suitable and what is not suitable. We do recognize that media plays a crucial role in sharing public opinions, for example, in sharing public perception and influencing societal norms, making critical thinking very essential skill in today's information. Why? Because today we have a lot of information. We are even invaded by information. We are invaded by a lot of news. But we should seek, that's fact checking, and we shouldn't imbibe everything that we see, for example, in mass media. But we should filter. Of course, there are many strategies that we can rely on in order to of course filter the information, and there are many associations that we can seek, like the American Psychological Association, for example. This association emphasizes the impact of media framing on public opinion. There is also News Literacy. This is also another organization, and there is the Fact Check organization, which advocates for cross-referencing multiple sources, to just see if the information is true or not. And this is a strategy indeed. And this is among the strategies that we are going to see. Sometimes if you read an article on a newspaper, or sometimes if someone sends you a message, for example, via WhatsApp, claiming that there is maybe a child abuse in somewhere, so you should verify this news and this piece of news, and you should seek multiple resources, not just one single resource, in order to check the information if it is true or not. And this is also something which is very, very important. So this is media critical strategies and evaluation. So you see cross-reference sources. So you assess the evidence, even if you find, for example, evidences, but you should assess, you should evaluate. You shouldn't just, well, this is the Independent, so when I read the Independent, it's 100% true. No, but we should, of course, assess the evidence, evaluate. So evaluation, assessment, this is something very, very needed and very demanded. Reflect on emotional reactions. And this is something also very, very important. There is also check educational resources or digital literacy. Educational resources, they are most of the time they are reliable, so we should of course check them in order to see if the news or if the information we are reading about is true or false or is fake. So these are some media critical strategies evaluation that we that we can, for example, use in order to see if the information is true or not. Well, so those are media tracking organizations. I have talked about the fact check, and this is an organization also, and this organization is specialized in filtering the information and to seek the credibility of information. This is something very important. We should, and this is the fact check. This is the website. Then you can consult later on. There is also the American Psychological Association, also for fact checking. It's very important. And the other website is the website of the news literacy. Also, these organizations, they are very important in order to seek the credibility or to know if that source that what you have read, for example, is it credible or not. And in order to even to keep that media rule very sacred, because most of the people, they rely on media. Okay, because sometimes you cannot travel everywhere, you cannot see everywhere concretely, but you rely on media, you rely on social media to see what is happening on in the world. But of course, you should seek the right media, and you should know how to evaluate and filter the information. We have like a case study to know the role of sentiment analysis and how to get acquainted with how media attempts, and sometimes successfully attempts, to mobilize other countries, sometimes even to change some laws. And this is the impact and the influence of media. This is why media is very important. But we are talking about the credibility. This is the credible lens of media. This is something very important. So I will show you here like this picture. So I don't know if you are familiar with Alan Kurdi, a Syrian boy whose body washed ashore in 2015, sparked widespread compassion and prompted policy responses in favor of accepting more refugees. And this is something which is very important. You see to what extent this sentiment analysis, because when this you see even this picture, when you see this picture, you just feel pity. Okay, and you see that this is human rights abuse, but at the same time it's more than human rights abuse. It's child abuse. So you see, and when the media, some, not all of them, when the media, of course, describes this scene, so it relies on the technique of sentiment analysis, and that sentiment analysis on social media platforms has revealed to public opinions, and has even shifted the response of public opinions about this image of Alan Kurdi. And from that time, even thanks to this image, and thanks to those journalists, for example, who have used this sentiment analysis in tracking this child abuse or this sort of human rights abuse, so they have successfully managed to urge other countries to accept more refugees. And this is something very important. It's a concrete example of how the media is playing a very important role. So I think this is what we can, for example, grosso modo, say about media tracking and the techniques of media tracking, the role of media tracking, and this is something very important. So we will have some time to do the workshop. So I think that in conclusion, so we can say that the role of media in human rights advocacy is foundational to the protection of democracy. So media is very important, and if media is granted the right to freedom of expression, so media will of course perform the role well, and this is something very important. Why media matters? Because it raises awareness, because it holds even power, and sometimes we claim that the fourth power or the fourth authority in any country is what is it? What is the fourth authority? It's the media or journalism. Okay, so this is the fourth authority in any country. So this is it. It's journalism. So it holds power. Okay, and it also. It is very important because raising awareness, holding power accountable, and amplifying marginalized voices. So media enables a more just society where human beings or human rights are respected and protected. But if we would like to just enjoy that rule of the media, we should give media, okay, the right to freedom of expression. So this is something very, very important. This is how we can, for example, conclude, and we should guarantee the safety for journalists and independence from undue influence, okay, and from even political pressure and suppression. This is something also that we should guarantee to our journalists wherever they are, because they are doing a very great job, and sometimes even they are sacrificing their lives to just disseminate information and to provide us with information and truth. Well, so this is the workshop. I will give you like a handout. It's an excerpt um, from the Independent, and it's very new. This journal is very new. This is a newspaper. It's just published on Tuesday, the 22nd of October, 2024. So you will read this excerpt and you will reflect as such. What steps can we take to avoid falling for fake news? How does fake news affect public opinion on important issues like human rights, for example? And how can critical thinking skills be applied to social media? So you will read this excerpt. So you read it and try to just reflect upon these questions, okay? Have you finished reading the article? Use the microphone. I would like to be near. It's fine.
You can use the wireless. It's fine. Use the wireless.
Okay, have you finished reading the article? So let's discuss. So what is the general idea of this article? So you see the title is very okay. In a world of fake news, our leaders must restore trust. But it's not about leaders, but it's about how we can trust the media. What are the techniques that we should follow in order to seek trust and to seek the truth at the same time? Yes. So what is the general idea? What is it about? Yes. It's about critical thinking skills. Yes, there is this question also. Critical thinking skills. Yes. Media literacy. Yes, very good. Yes, it's about media literacy. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So it's like at early age we should engage and integrate media literacy into our schools, primary schools, into our universities. Okay, to just show students, to show people how they can filter the information. Yes, media literacy. So this is something very important because many people they follow the media but they don't even understand it. Sometimes they believe anything they read, even in WhatsApp groups, for example, Instagram, Facebook. They believe anything. They are very naive people. So of course, in order to acquire this critical thinking, so we should engage and we should integrate media literacy into our schools and our universities. Yes. What else? Yes, Miss.
Basically, the importance of fact checking
Good.
any sort of information that we consume from social media
Yes.
or other sorts of media.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Also, I'd also shed some light into the Indian context of what fake news is for us.
Yes.
Considering we have had successful democratic elections in this country,
Yeah.
during those times, there has been numerous incidents where various sorts of WhatsApp forwards have come out, from which we have also developed this concept of WhatsApp University.
Yes.
For this
Good.
particular breed of people that blindly believe what they see or read on
Yeah,
WhatsApp.
this is a very good idea, I think. Yes.
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 So I'd like to shed light on that
Yes,
concept.
thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Yes, what else? Yes, sir.
Yes.
And you? Yes, just tell us what have you maybe read and what have you benefited from?
They
Yes,
got the idea how like people are changing their mind regarding politics.
regarding politics.
Politics.
Yes.
The government, how they see now.
Mhm.
When these all are not there, like it was little bit trustworthy, but
Yes.
now we can't trust them.
Yes,
And
exactly.
Trump victory about
Yes, this is something very important because sometimes even the press, it serves, unfortunately speaking, the political agenda, and this is what this journalist, for example, disagrees upon. That we should filter the information because sometimes we cannot trust the press 100%, and we should use the fact checking. We should use also multiple resources in order to just see if we can trust that journalist or not, in order to filter the information and in order to seek maybe trust resources. Yes, all right. Yes, miss. Yes.
Also like media literacy, when we talk about media literacy, it's all also about how can we distinguish between news, what is a news and a propaganda.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Very good.
Because
Yes.
most of the news media or any media we consume in a daily basis,
Yeah.
like, it's more often propaganda rather than giving facts or information out to the public.
Yeah, exactly. But we should know there is a sort of media which we can trust, okay? Why not? But we should know it. And there is a sort of media, of course, that serves the political propaganda, the political agenda. And this is why we are reading here. So I think that this journalist is proposing some strategies that we can seek in order to filter the information and or the misinformation, to know that this is misinformation and to know this is the true information. So what are the techniques that this journalist, for example, proposes? It's here.
Verifying, cross checking, like
Yes. What else? So it's It's nearly at the end. Yeah, okay. He claims that fortunately there are steps we can take to support the flow of factual and accurate information. So of course there is dissemination of this dissemination of news. Okay, we cannot stop it. It's a really a fluid flow of news and of information. But at least there are some strategies that we can see. Okay, and this is what this journal is proposing. Yes, like what? Good. So we should be endowed with critical thinking skills. This is something very important. Yes, what else? Sorry? Yes, reviewing online. Yes. All right. What else? Yeah, to revise the curriculum. So these are techniques. Yes. What else? Oh, what does he say about education? He has mentioned education somewhere. Yes. What does he say? Exactly. So he claims that the education system must play a key role in equipping young people with critical thinking skills that will allow them to identify and reject misinformation. Revamping the curriculum to include media literacy will help create a generation of well informed citizens who can discern fact from fiction. So you see, discern fact from fiction. Additionally, a review of the Online Safety Act is necessary to ensure that it adequately addresses the challenges posed by today's digital environment. So we see, so these are some techniques and some strategies that is suggested by this journalist in order, of course, to seek the truth and in order to just avoid getting or being misinformed and misrepresented. So this is something which is very, very important, and this is what this journalist suggests. So, in your opinion, for example, how can critical thinking skills be applied to social media? So let's discuss a little bit this issue before ending this lecture. So, what is the role of critical thinking? How can it be very measurable and very effective in analyzing, monitoring, and measuring media? How can we apply? You have talked about critical thinking skills. Yes, this is something very, very crucial, but how can we apply it? How can we use it? Especially in academia, for example. Do you have any idea? Yes, yes, sir.
Can put some stories.
Mhm.
Can put some stories.
Creating stories, sharing stories with people. Yes. Can you give us example? More concrete examples?
A moral story regarding media.
Yeah.
Books.
Oh, yeah, this is a very good idea. Yes, maybe in the curriculum, we can, for example, endow the curriculum with some stories about human rights, about media literacy. So this media literacy should be integrated within the curriculum, within the school curriculum. Yes, this is a good idea. Yes, why not? So from scratch, from the very beginning, even children they will have this media literacy. They will get aware of the role of media. Yes, and they will know how to track misinformation and how to know that this information is true. Yes, all right. So this is good. Yes, it means integrating media literacy in like the curriculum. Yes, in the course books, for example. Yes, this is a very good idea. Yes. What else? How can we implement this critical thinking skill? Yes. Yes. Mhm. Yes, why not? Yes, I think there are organizations, okay, that perform this fact checking, like the American Psychological Association, like the News Literacy also. But why not having okay other organizations? Yes, when you have, for example, any broadcast news, so we will have the source maybe under this news is taken from this source. Yes, why not to just have that credibility of the news? Yes, this is also an idea. This is how we can even implement these critical thinking skills. Yes, what else? Mhm. Do you have any other suggestions? Yes, what can you propound?
There can be some workshops as such also.
Yes, such this workshop, for example. Yes, this is also about media literacy. So we are integrating media literacy into academia, and this is something very concrete that we are living now. Now we are very aware that we live in a world where, for example, misinformation is everywhere. So therefore, we are here to learn how to avoid that misinformation and how to get information from reliable, credible sources. Yes, okay. So thank you very much, and thank you for your reaction, your questions, and your answers also.
Thank you.